Well, good morning. I will call our September meeting of Central Oklahoma Transportation and Parking Authority to order. Chairman doesn't have any items right now. Do we have any citizens to be heard? I was not notified of that, so I don't guess we do. Next item is approval of our minutes of the August 6th meeting. Any changes or additions or deletions any of the trustees have? And if not, I'd have a motion to approve our minutes. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Our next item is minutes of our special meeting of the Joint Finance and Parking Committee of August 26th and minutes of the August 26th Marketing Committee. So if we could, if there's any changes to either of those minutes, if not, I would have a motion to approve the minutes of those two meetings. What are we waiting?
We need some Jeopardy music. Do
what? I can't hear.
I can't hear what you're saying. Oh. Voice vote.
I'll move approval.
Okay. Oh,
I'll second.
well, we have a motion first. Is that Barney? And then second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. All right. Next item is our consent docket. We've got,
I think we have one more minute.
well, I was trying to do them both at the same time, but maybe you can't do that. Then I'd have a motion to approve our special meeting of the Marketing Committee on August 26th.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, our consent docket, we've got 6 items on the consent docket. Are any of the items with the any of the trustees like to visit about either one of those items? Or Jason, do you have any comments on any of those items?
No, sir.
I move approval of the consent docket.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh. Okay, we got it back up and running. Well, we had a voice aye, didn't we? Had a,
Yeah.
oh, there it is.
It's
All right, motion passes. All right, thank you. Items for individual consideration, professional service agreement to provide consulting services to perform on-call transportation planning services. Jason, if you have any comments on that item?
Yes, sir. So this is a professional services agreement with HNTB for on-call planning services. As the trust is aware, we normally have a consultant or two sometimes on a on-call contract basis, just to really help us in the event we have projects or studies, short-range plans that come up throughout the year that we need some technical assistance on. And so that's what this item is here. It's really just selecting HNTB to be that on-call transportation planner for us. You may recall back in June, the trust actually authorized a scope of work. We went through a competitive selection process in selecting HNTB. And just as kind of a heads up for a future board meeting, we also received multiple proposals, and staff is also negotiating on-call services with LTK. So that may be coming in the future. Just wanted to let you know, if you approve this item today for on-call transportation planning, there'll probably be one coming to the trust in the future. It just gives us more flexibility if we have, a couple of firms that we can consult with when projects come up. So the estimated cost on this item you'll see is $50,000 annually. Again, there's nothing that obligates us to really spend anything, but if we need the service, we have the consultant to assist us, and then we'll fund that through the Transit Operating Fund. We're looking at, as you can see the term there, basically an agreement for option of two. I think we've actually got a little misprint on our terms down at the bottom, but so it's a 3-year agreement initially. The term listed on your memo actually has it expiring the same day we're voting on it, so we'll get that corrected. Threw me off. But I'm happy to answer any other questions.
All right. If there's no questions, then I have a motion to approve item A. We have a motion and a second.
Okay. Aye.
All right. Motion is approved. Item B is a agreement with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation for block grant Spokies bike share service area expansion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that is a long title.
Mouthful.
Would you like me to share a few comments on that one?
Yeah,
Okay, so
a little
this is,
explanation.
yeah, it's a very, very lengthy title here, so I'll try to get into the details a bit for the benefit of the trust here. So, we've been talking about expanding the Spokies bike share system. Last month, we presented a contract for the trust to consider where we would basically purchase 52 electric assist bikes and some other supplies to make our existing bike share fleet basically what we would call a smart fleet, in that we would no longer have to use the dock-based system, right? It'd function much the way that our latest bikes work in terms of being able to track those bikes with GPS. So this is kind of the last piece in getting all the funding put in place for the expansion of that system. And it's an agreement with ODOT, basically spelling out the terms of how we can be reimbursed for those bikes once we purchase them. And, again, you've seen this before, but as we start partnering more with ODOT and ACOG, and we're eligible for some of these STBG funds that we haven't really used in the past. As we have projects that are funded with STBG funds, we have a separate agreement with ODOT for each one of those projects. And so, again, that's what this is today. It's just an agreement with ODOT, spelling out the terms of that grant. Once it's approved by the trust, we'll send it to ODOT for approval, and then everything will be in place for reimbursement. Happy to answer any other questions.
Any questions by any of the trustees? Then I'd have a motion to approve item B. It's been moved and seconded. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. Item C is a resolution adopting the recommendation of the the Marketing Committee to approve the proposed naming branding of the bus rapid transit system.
Yes.
Rapid, I believe.
Yes, sir. So the Marketing Committee met last week, August 26th, and during that committee meeting, the name and branding strategy for the BRT were presented, and the committee approved that branding strategy and name and voted to recommend that approval to the board. And so the proposed name for the BRT system is Rapid. And if this item is approved today, we will officially name that system as such, and then we will come back to, meaning staff, will come back to the board during our November meeting and really have a presentation there where we lay out the full branding strategy in terms of what the logo looks like, how the brand will look on a bus, how it integrates with the platforms, and really kick off that full, branding, if you will, at that time. But yeah, a big deal for us today, in that if this item is approved, we can move forward with the name of the BRT system. And
All right. No questions by any of the trustees, and I have a motion to approve item C. It's been moved and seconded. And approved unanimously. Thank you. Last item on our individual consideration is item D, and it's a non-disclosure agreement with New Flyer of America for our bus procurement. And I guess it's an audit while the buses are under construction or in.
Very similar to how we audit buses when they're under construction. This will actually be an audit before we award the contract. So keeping kind of on the theme of BRT, yeah, this item here is one more step in allowing us to get closer to be able to award a contract to a manufacturer for the buses that we'll use on the BRT corridor. As your memo indicates, in May, we actually began the request for proposal process for our BRT buses. As you'll recall, we received 3 proposals, if you will. Staff has been negotiating with the top scoring proposer, that's New Flyer, right? They're the manufacturer of the bus that we're looking to purchase. No contract has been awarded yet, but 2 things: in following FTA purchasing guidelines, we need to do what's called a pre-award, before we award the contract, a pre-award audit to make sure that the manufacturer meets the FTA's Buy America requirements. So as part of that, New Flyer will release some information to us and to our auditor so we can perform that audit, but in turn, they're requesting that the trust sign a non-disclosure, right? So that no proprietary information is shared with a competitor. And so that's really what this item is doing today, is it's authorizing us signing that non-disclosure and then authorizing the expenditure of approximately $1,000 for a firm to do that pre-award audit. So it's a paper audit, essentially. Once this is completed and that audit is finished, then we anticipate bringing an item to the board to actually award the contract for the buses. Could be as early as our September 9th special meeting, but we anticipate no later than our October 1st meeting.
Then when do we anticipate first delivery? I mean, what's the scheduling for all this?
It's about a year out from when the contract is awarded. So,
But,
basically,
I don't think the construction of the BRT route would be completed by then, but.
oh no, we will receive the buses, and that's part of the plan, is we want to make sure we receive the buses actually before, the construction is completed, because it gives us an opportunity to train on the buses, and we're going to also, just so you know, we're going to be receiving the buses kind of in phases. We'll receive a bus that we'll be able to, look at, make sure it's, meets the specifications and such that we wanted, and then continue on receiving them.
All right. Any other questions by any of the trustees? Then I'd have a motion to approve item D. We've had a motion and a second. Unanimous vote. All right, thank you. Next item is ratification of claims and payroll. Usually we don't have any questions on that, but are there any questions by any of the trustees on that? If not, I'd have a motion to ratify. Been moved and seconded. Passes unanimously. All right, our financial reports. I know it's only 1 month into our fiscal year, but I think Jason had just a couple comments on.
Yes, sir. If I could direct your attention to page 2 of the budget to actuals. Yeah, I won't have comments for each one of the reports like I normally do. I'm happy to answer any questions, but again, being 1 month into the fiscal year, not a lot of detailed information can be revealed at this time. However, if we want to look at page 2, I did want to point out to you that about halfway down the list of revenues, you'll see that, and I know you're familiar with this, but our federal grant revenue, we budgeted just over, or I should say about $7.8 million in grant revenue for the year. As we were putting the budget together, we anticipated, being able to draw on our grant an amount of about $650,000. I think I had mentioned last month that we were still waiting to receive our most current formula grant. And so we did not receive that grant. In other words, it did not go through the FTA's approval process by the end of July. In fact, we were just awarded that grant, I believe it was this week. So our first draw or our first reimbursement on that federal grant revenue line really will not occur until this month, September. So you're going to see a deficit, if you will, this month and next month until that September financial is reported to the trust. Now, I know this is not anything that you're not used to seeing. We have timing lags sometimes between grants. As a result, we did draw an additional $200,000 in general fund subsidy. You'll notice our general fund subsidy revenues, we drew $200,000 more than what we had budgeted, and part of that was to make up for that temporary shortfall, if you will, in receiving the grant revenue. The remaining shortfall was just made up from our reserves. We keep some reserves in our operations, and that's why it's so important to have adequate reserves so that we can have adequate cash flow as sometimes we navigate, time periods of waiting on grants to be available. So all that said is those are probably the two most significant things to point out in my mind in the financials. However, I did want to also direct your attention to the far two right-hand columns on your report. And this is two columns of additional or new data that we have not, at least in the past, included in the budget to actual. And so I wanted to thank the finance department. I wanted to thank city accounting staff. I know we have some here with us in the meeting. And really the idea behind this was to try to provide, just even more information to the trustees, understanding your fiduciary responsibility. And so now not only do you have a budget to actual that compares, how we're doing year to date compared to budget, but you can look over on the far right-hand side of your report and also see, well, how are we doing this year compared to this time last year? And so again, just the idea is just to provide you with more information, and I'm sure we'll have questions as we get further along into the year, and some of the variances might be a little bit more meaningful, but happy to answer any questions on that. And again, thanks to the finance department and accounting team for adding that additional info.
Brent, does that kind of answer the questions that you posed at the last meeting and recommendations? Oh, good. All right. Any other comments? Any questions by any of the trustees on the financials? Then I'd have a motion to receive our financial report. Motion passes. Thank you. We've got 3 program reports for our meeting today. The first is marketing and technology.
Good morning.
Morning.
This is a rare occurrence that I'm at the beginning of the program reports. I'm usually at the end. So, Jesse, I'm going to take up a little bit of your time and not rush through this for once. But good morning. Thank you for allowing me to share a few updates about marketing and our IT teams. It says move for me. There we go. Got the right one. This summer, you heard from our partners at the ETC Institute on our annual onboard survey and our market survey. You may recall that the onboard survey is conducted annually and the market or non-rider survey every other year. This is the every other year that we just launched. This work has been valuable in determining what is important to our existing customers and to get a glimpse of how non-riders perceive our services. Today, with the approval of our agreement with AlphaView, we are taking steps to understand our interactions through the customer's eyes. We are calling this customer intelligence. In other areas, you might hear about it like data mining. But through this customer intelligence, we're finding a few things to solidify some statements that you may have heard. One of those is, if you don't tell your story, someone else will. Our dashboards will expand our understanding of customer and community perceptions in real time and understand how our brand's engagement or lack of engagement affect their experience with Embark's family of services. In the graph on the left, so on the far left of the screen here, you might notice that when the yellow line dips, red bars start to spiral downward. And so that's indicating a perception or a sentiment that's occurring. That yellow line represents engagement that we have through our various channels, and we're trying to digest as many of those channels as possible. That includes all of our social media. It also includes any customer complaints that might be received or customer communications that are received, let me put it that way, through our customer relations tool that's available on our website or through Embark Connect app. The correlation is that when we have little to no active engagement occurring through our communication platforms, a negative public sentiment is more likely. So those are things that we can learn, and this is what you're looking at here as all of our in total platforms for all of our services. It's ranging from transit, parking, Spokies. It's not specific to just one of those right now. However, what we can do is we can dig in deeper and look at it on a case-by-case basis. It has also ingested all of our routes, and so we'll be able to look at how that is perceived by route, as well as for each of the service modes that we have. AlphaView will help us quantify qualitative data. So again, what this is doing is this is taking a look at all of the comments, all of the customer interactions that we're having that we're able to digest into this system. And it's using artificial intelligence to read all of those communications and look at what type of language and words are used so that we can get a proper gauge, again, of where we stand with the public opinion of our services or even about a specific topic. And we've got a few topics that we just started with, and we can continue to expand those and build onto those. But right now you see a topic engagement on the right side that says just Embark as a whole. So you're going to see that. How about bicycling? That's a pretty popular topic in our community. That's one as well. COVID is one that's being tracked across many transit agencies right now. And so we'll be also tracking how we compare to other agencies in that area. We also have general operations, just the overall operations of our service. And then you'll also see safety. This is only a few engagements. These are very new. We just started with this and got it all set up. So you'll see that right now we have a relatively pretty good sentiment in regards to those topics. However, again, it's going to take a look at anything that you might have, and whether you agree with the sentiment or not, or that is there, it's based off of what is being shared with us. It could be someone is complaining about on the COVID line. It could be someone's complaining about having to wear a mask. Now, we set that policy in place to protect our employees, our customers, as much as we can, but it is going to ingest those comments where people don't agree with that. So we do have to take that into account, and we'll look at that continuously. There is a kind of a bleed over with COVID and safety, again, where people are going to make comments, and it could even be that we've heard comments where they want operators to maybe enforce the rules more or get in a more confrontational stance with customers not wearing a mask. We've seen that occur on social media. And so that's going to also read negative. So those are things and nuances that we'll just continue to learn as we use this system. So again, AlphaView will help quantify qualitative data and give us a lens through which we can better understand the experiences of our residents and direct customers and our direct customers are having with our organizations and projects. And so we'll find this especially useful as we begin construction of the BRT system, and we will tailor some of the topics around that. One example where similar data was used to improve a customer experience, where they took this same type of information and how did they use that to turn it into an actionable change or improvement. So a case study by McKinsey & Company, which is a management company, a global management company, is where an airport learned that customer satisfaction had more to do with the behavior of security personnel than the time they spent in line. So there are things that they could do to affect how that experience occurred in that airport, and they made action or took action to improve that sentiment. So while this is new to us, our partners at AlphaView will help us to use the tool to its fullest. We have transit agency peers in Dallas, Austin, Grand Rapids, Phoenix, and several others, such as WMATA in Boston, using customer intelligence to shape public opinion and public transportation improvements, improve customer and community relationships around transit projects, and in some cases even helped positively affect or impact ballot initiatives. Next, I'll share an update on our development of our first web application. But before I do that, are there any questions about this tool that we're looking at today?
Gathered, in person, telephone, what?
So it's all dynamic at this point, meaning it's as we receive it. So as someone enters comments on a forum, online forum through our social media, it could be sending us an email through our customer service center. So that's where it's receiving. There is an option also to ingest customer service calls. And so it would listen basically to those calls and make judgments based off of what they're hearing there. And again, this is just an attempt to take a lot of different interactions and give us a better understanding about what's the overall sentiment. Because a lot of times, we can sometimes, if we're only tuned into one channel, we might get the opinion that, oh, well, everyone feels this way, right? So everyone on Twitter, feels this way. Everyone on Facebook feels this way. This is taking all of that, aggregating that together, and helping us form a more complete picture of what public sentiment is out there.
So Michael, it's pretty much all automated. Like we're not contacting anybody or sending out anything in the mail. It's just, AlphaView provides that service for us, and they probably automate a lot of it, right?
Yes,
Through
it's all artificial intelligence, computer programming. Now, as part of the program, though, we have a series of 10 questions that we ask every month. That's just like a digital survey. Sometimes you've been on a website or somewhere, and it says, hey, would you mind commenting on whatever? And we approved all the questions, and they're just the same questions every month. So the next time I'm before you, I'll bring you some of the results of that. And that's just to help us, again, gauge what people are thinking about these specific questions and or topics. All right, well, As you may know, last fall, we lost our longstanding partner, Staple Gun, as a result of just loss of business and just unable to survive during the pandemic. And so what we had to do at that time is we had to re-engage another contractor, help us build, at the time, what we thought was just, bringing all of our family of services websites under one roof. But what we have now learned as we continue to work through the project is this is more of a web application. And the reason for that is because that we're finding, and we have found, that our websites are a place of transactions that are occurring. There's end-to-end transactions that are occurring every day on our websites. And that's through integrations with softwares, other platforms, and even exchange of information. So to be successful today, we have to tailor that experience around every customer, or the user in that case. Our partner Indigo Digital is building a web application for our family of services. The objective is to provide a world-class web application tailored around the user experience. We know we'll be successful if it enhances the understanding and use of our services, while at the same time creating internal efficiencies. Now, it may appear as if only a website is accessible through a URL like embarkok.com or parkingokc.com. Those won't go away. And it's true, they'll be able to access our application that way. This is not going to be turned into a mobile application in this phase. This is purely a web application that is built for both desktop and mobile devices. And even for me, it's hard to articulate the scope of a project like this, because one way to describe it is to compare it to building a house or a structure. And because a house or a structure isn't just a builder who comes out and starts building a house. You have a lot of different disciplines involved in laying the foundation and then also building out all of the pieces, such as user experience and testing that. And really going back to what we just talked about with AlphaView, is learning how to take the feedback and understand the analytics and put it into action. So as with any of those mentioned, you will need multiple disciplines and experts to successfully complete the project. Like building a structure, what would you start with? In this case, we started with empathy. Now that may sound odd, but it's totally aligned again with what we discussed earlier with AlphaView. We want to build a web application around our customer or user, and to do that, we have to understand their needs and the end-to-end experience. So based on past customer analytics, our top users come back to embark.com for. What would you guess? What do people come to our website for?
Scheduling?
Scheduling? Well, it's not our calendar of events, I can tell you that much. They don't come here to look for that. However, that is a very useful tool. But you're right. What people are coming to embarkok.com in this example is they're coming to find a ride. I mean, that's the thing. And the majority, we can tell you how much time people spend on that page. We can tell you how much time where they go next. And that's just through basic analytics. In this example, the primary customer needs is front and center, and that's finding a ride. If you are at the parkingokc.com, it's going to be find parking. It's going to help you find that right away. And so it's not going to present you with pretty pictures first. That comes later. But again, we want to tailor this around what the customer or the user needs. And our experience, what we're finding, they're needing access to this tool. And the faster we can get them to that tool, the better the experience will be. So another important aspect, as I mentioned earlier, is that it's constructed for both desktop and mobile devices. But more importantly, for mobile devices. That is the number one way that our data our websites or this application will be accessed, is all through a mobile device. And not just the newest iPhone or the newest Galaxy, Samsung. I don't know Android very well, so you might have to help me there. But it's also that it has to be backwards compatible with some older devices, because we know a lot of our customers are not always able to upgrade to the latest device available. And so we feel like this is more about accessibility in not just of a way of can I see it or read it or do I have access to it, but also can I use it on devices that I can afford and that I have. Another page that's becoming increasingly popular is our document library. Our vision in this application is interactivity. This document library will serve as our foundation for all content and information. Think of it like a database. And in web applications and software application, you will find, like with a building, you have a solid foundation, right? Well, a database is typically that solid foundation for any of these successful websites or applications. So the hardest work we feel is done, and that is that we have now got, what you've seen here is just a few examples of all the work that is out there that's been done. This is like akin to our engineering drawings that we're asking HNTB to produce for our, to build the BRT line. These plans here now allow us to launch the construction. And that's with full stack developers who are going to then make this a reality. So at this time, we anticipate user testing in early 22 and launch by early spring. Now, thankfully, unlike with construction, weather is not typically a delay that we have to worry about. However, the integrations with other software platforms can cause delays. So we are anticipating that could occur, and we're trying to plan around that. And before we take a look at some other recent marketing activities, I just wanted to pause a moment just to see if you have any questions about the work that we're doing here. All right. Well, if you're like me, it's hard to believe summer is nearly over. So I'd like us to take a look at a few things that we have taking place. One of those is Stockyards Landing ribbon cutting. In the blistering heat on July 14th, we hosted the ribbon cutting for our 5th ferry landing, located just outside of Stockyards City. We had over 55 guests. I can tell you I was really surprised because it was so hot, but we had such an exciting event because we had so many people and vendors from the Stockyards City who are excited about having this near their destination, and it allowed us to build new partnerships and relationships. We had 18 stories as a result of the media event by 4 of our 5 major media outlets here, including the Oklahoman. As part of this event, a promotion and a small budget was allocated to celebrate this key milestone and increase awareness of the new landing and to boost ridership on Wednesdays, which we had historically seen as one of our lowest ridership service days, lowest ticket sales that would occur. So even with a small budget, our reach on Facebook increased 133% in August, and then on Instagram, we saw it increase 365%. For venues and destinations, this is a pretty big deal. This is a major way to reach local audiences in regards to leisure activities such as this can be. I'm glad to report that ticket sales are up on Wednesdays as a result, and we're continuing to see that grow each month that we're in service again. And for those of you who could attend, I want to just say thank you for taking time out of your day and for being willing to sweat a little with the rest of us. We definitely appreciate it. But you have made the day extra special because this was something I think our partners at Stockyards City won't forget for quite some time. So our team continues to evolve our storytelling. So let's take a look at some of those.
Welcome to Stockyards City!
We also are continuing to try to promote the cross-pollination of all of our services, if you will. And part of that, one of these was inspired by our very own Trustee Johnson here, with looking to find a way, how can we further communicate where our streetcar stops in relation to our garages. And that idea that continuing the park and ride experience is going to be an important aspect of both being successful. So we have developed new decals that are appearing in our garages. If you've been in the Arts District garage, you'll notice the elevator, it's already in that one there. And you'll notice that there's two different QR codes. One's going to give you walking directions to the closest or the nearest streetcar stop, and the other is going to take you directly to the real-time information. And so that will be a useful tool for those who are parking in our garages and going to the nearest stop to reach their final destination. These will start arriving in all of the other garages, and each one is customized to the specific garage and the nearest stop. Another project that has been really important. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Are these available as PDFs online on the website, or?
We don't have them as a PDF. That's a great idea. We can do that. Make a note of that. They are rather like a large size, as you noticed, and so we can condense them down to a size that you could print easily from a desktop printer, if you will, or we can help provide a file for whatever size you're looking for. So you may have thought that Corey's parking garage is kind of been in the past. We're done working on it. It's launched. It's open. But we're really excited about the work that's been going on and that has taken place on that garage. Thanks to the efforts of this board and a partnership with the city's Office of Arts and Cultural Affairs, Embark's parking structures are becoming world-class examples of form and function. The marketing team worked alongside Robbie Kinzel to produce a virtual exhibit guide and a document that showcases the spirit of Oklahoma City through the artwork on Embark's newest parking facility, the Convention Center Garage. The guide is an ongoing collaboration with that office. It is helping tell a comprehensive story of both of our city, the 1% Arts project that is underway, and Embark's commitment to public art altogether. Together with the artist and the Office of Cultural Affairs, the story is being shared with local and national publications, and is starting to get attention in each of those venues. Now, my final slide doesn't do justice to the work of our IT team. Specifically, Jared Early, I want to recognize his work as our network administrator. Always behind the scene and understated, he helps ensure our technology is doing what it's supposed to. Many of you probably don't know, but we've been shorthanded just a little bit in the IT division for the last few months. But we continue to make progress on two of several large projects. The first is Safe Fleet. This is our bus surveillance system, and we have upgraded it and all of our buses and that equipment to a web HD service. The upgrade provides enhanced web-based tools that allow staff to maintain and diagnose equipment and manage the library of videos recorded on every bus. In most cases, there are 8 cameras on every bus, so there's a camera feed and a video associated with every camera on nearly all 90 of our, up to 90 of our fleet. That's a lot of video storage. The system provides enhanced image quality and sound quality and provides improved incident investigation capabilities. And I'm glad to say that the project as a whole just wrapped up. Another significant effort underway is rooted in the recommendation from our technology consultant that we brought on board a couple of years ago, 49 Technologies. Our IT team initiated a project to upgrade our transit management software from version 13 to 19. That's right, 6 versions. Now, thanks to Apple and Microsoft, you might think an upgrade isn't a big task. You just click on the upgrade and or update software, and it's a done thing. However, these systems are delicately configured and must be tuned as each system module and version is upgraded. So what that means is we have to upgrade to version 19 or 14. Once that's complete, upgrade to version 15. And so we step through each process and make sure each of those connections are maintained and all of the data is safely there. And we're doing that in a production or a test environment, and then we get to do it all over again in a live environment. So staff will begin testing the upgrades very soon with the goal to have the first phase of the project complete by the end of the calendar year. The overall goal is to provide staff with useful tools that will create operational efficiencies while providing modern and enhanced resources for managing our bus system. Version 13, as you might imagine, correlates with the year 2013. But in reality, even some of these systems, especially in the transit industry, we're finding that they're not always built even on the latest technology, even though Windows might be on version 10. This is built on Windows CE, which is really around 2000. So we're still seeing that there's a lot of work to be done, but this is a big improvement where we're headed, and it requires a lot of effort. And as a very small team, we take a measured approach of how we handle each one of those upgrades. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Well, Michael, that's quite a report. You had to work hard to put all that together. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Jesse, thank you for some of your time.
All right. Next is our Safety Service Program report. I guess, Eugene, you're going to make a report on that?
Good morning, everybody. We ready to talk safety in SMS? Thank you, thank you. All right, so 49 CFR 673 requires a transit agency to have a PTASP, a safety plan. And within that, the FTA has adopted the principles and methods of SMS, which we're going to get into further into the presentation. The reason for that is they wanted to enhance safety throughout the transit agencies in the U.S. So our PTASP, our safety plan, incorporates the SMS principles within it. So you can see there the four pillars of SMS. We're going to get more into those in a little bit. So our PTASP is required to be approved by our accountable executive and the board. So I'll be back in November, December to go over any changes we did with that for your approval. Taking a step back, so this is not on the slide, but 49 CFR 674 requires the state to have a SSO, a state safety oversight agency. So that is ODOT for us. So they have a program standard, and our PTASP must match that program standard. So within that, there's 23 elements. So the FTA requires 21 elements. ODOT has added 2 additional elements to that, making it 23. The 2 they added are record keeping and the transit asset management plan. So these 4 pillars. So safety management policy basically is a written statement defining accountabilities and responsibilities. It is signed by our accountable executive, Jason. Safety risk management is identifying hazards, assessing the hazards, and analyzing the hazards and coming up with mitigations for them. Safety assurance is making sure all the mitigations that we have put in place are being effective and are working. And then safety promotion is how are we promoting, how are we getting the word safety out there, and training is included in this. So we're just going to take a look at one of the pillars today. So the safety management policy has the 7 elements here in it. So program review and updates. So this requires us to review our plans and programs, policies every year. So the PTASP is one of those, so that's why I said I'll be back again in November, so we have to do that every year. It's a requirement by ODOT. Implementation plan, so we have an SMS plan, so it's a 5-year plan. So some of the things that we have implemented already, so we identified our key employees that need training. So I'm going to get into the training a little bit deeper later. But so like Jason, Jesse, myself, Dennis, and Molly, it's a Transit Safety Security Program certificate. So we have that for both the bus system and the streetcar system. And then Jimmy Friend has that just on the bus system side. First, emergency preparedness. So how are we preparing for emergencies? So we do a lot of work with the city fire department and police department. A little shout out to Captain Barnes to helping out with our full-scale exercises that we do. We also do tabletop exercises. So we did, the last couple that we did, we actually did one for COVID back in March of 2019, I think is when it was. So we did a little tabletop on preparing for COVID. And then we did another tabletop in preparation for the elections that were coming up with all that was happening with the elections. Record keeping, so we're required to keep track of documents. So we do this with a document control matrix. We're required to keep them for a certain length of time, and all of that is tracked on the document control matrix. Safety management policy, so this is basically where the written statement is. It's part of our PTAS, but it's signed by Jason, and this is where it defines the accountabilities, the responsibilities, the key personnel. It talks about our goals, objectives, and targets in there as well. Speaking of goals and targets, so our one of our goals is to create a great safety culture within our organization, and that's why we have Be Safe as one of our core values. Also, our objective is to make sure we have no injuries and no collisions. And then our targets, we're just going to go to this slide here. It's a little busy. So we broke it up into streetcar, fixed route for buses, and paratransit for buses. So the top four are in each of the three categories. These are required by the FTA. So it's preventable fatalities, preventable injuries, preventable safety events, and system reliability. So we have that for streetcar, fixed route, and paratransit. On the streetcar side, we added two additional ones for traction power substations and overhead contact system. And then the last element within this pillar is safety management structure. So our safety department starts with me, the Chief Safety Officer. We have an addition, a new position, our Transit Safety Specialist. We also have a bus specialist and a training analyst. And we also have some temps to help out with writing of our SOPs. So this would be a great time to thank everyone for the resources that you provide my department. I really, really appreciate it. Oh, so here, I would like to talk about our partnership with TSI, Transportation Safety Institute. So their headquarters is here in Oklahoma City, and they do classes throughout the U.S. And 4 years ago, I was asking them, I said, how do we get classes here in Oklahoma City? And they said, well, you have to host a class. So for the last 4 years, we've been hosting a class. We would typically only get like one, maybe two classes a year, because of the size of our agency. This past year, from January to now, we've had eight classes for TSI, helping them out because they had states that shut down. They needed places to do classes, and I'm like, sure, let's do it here. It saved us a ton of money because our employees didn't have to travel. So one of the advantages of having these classes here, or even our employees going to the classes, well, for here, it brings other people from other agencies here. So it's a great networking opportunity for our employees in the class because now we get to, rely on experiences of other agencies that they probably never would have had before had they not been in a TSI class. And then, so this is the COP to Board role and responsibilities. So help us promote safety as a core value, help reinforce a culture that includes a focus on safety, Support the accountable executive. So just speaking a little about the accountable executive, so the way the FTA defines that, that's a single point of contact of one person within the agency that has ultimate responsibility, and they also control and direct the resources to ensure that the safety plan is happening. And then approve the PTAS, so I said that before, so I will be back maybe November, December to go over all the changes that we did on PTAS and for your approval. And I believe that is it. Any questions? All righty, thank you.
Yeah, I'll get through it pretty quick. Good morning. Good morning, Chairperson, Vice Chair, trustees. Hope everyone's doing great. So I do have to give you some insider information. I'm a little disappointed in Eugene. He does have a safety orange suit, jacket, and pants. Disappointed he didn't wear it, but it is what it is. So we're going to jump into the BRT update real quick. So real quick update on the schedule. So, you know, I've told you where we've been. So with the 30%, 60% design. So right now we're in between the 60 and the 95% design. We're doing our utility conferences. So what that means is we're reaching out to the public and private utility companies. So like our city water, our city sewer, storm sewer, but also our other utility companies like ONG, OG&E, AT&T. So if there's any utilities that are located under any of our BRT stops, we want to get out in front of that and be able to get those relocated before we get into construction, right? So we're doing those utility conferences now that we've pretty much nailed down exactly where all of our BRT stations are going to go. But we're also doing right-of-way acquisition. So what that means is there are certain areas where, you know, we may need to purchase additional right-of-way to be able to get the pedestrian sidewalk behind the stations, or we may need to purchase or do a right-of-way lease with the property owner. That allows us access to be able to come in and construct the BRT stop. So that's where we're at right now with our engineering side, still moving toward going into revenue service toward the end of 2023. I say it every time, it'll be here before you know it. We've been through it with the streetcar, right? It seems like it takes forever, then all of a sudden it's here. We're going to run into that with the BRT also, so we're wanting to make sure that we continue to provide those updates. A quick update on the BRT bus procurement. So again, I won't go through all the details of where we've been, I'm going to just focus on where we're headed. So like Jason said, we're anticipating hopefully bringing the contract to the special board meeting on September 9th. And then Chairman Kaufman, you asked about the first bus delivery. So April 6th is when we're anticipating that first bus delivery. Like Jason said, that'll give us an opportunity to really dig into the details, see if there's anything that we must change before the other buses start arriving. And then all buses delivered by February 6th of 2023, tying back to that construction schedule, getting those buses here prior to going into revenue service so we have plenty of time to test those buses in conjunction with our constructed stations. Any questions about the schedules before I move on? All right, great. So what we're going to focus on today is our BRT station platforms, okay? So we're trying to give updates on different parts of the BRT. Today is platforms. So we have two different types of platforms. We have a high capacity station, which is this rendering here. It has a larger shelter, and we have two areas where we have the high capacity station. The first one being at our far northwest terminus at Northwest Expressway and Meridian, and then the other one being at North Classen and Northwest 23rd. One of the main reasons why we've got the high capacity stations at North Classen and Northwest 23rd is because we anticipate this being a pretty heavily used area, right, with Route 23 running through there. We're anticipating a lot of transfers, so we want to make sure that we had a high-capacity station at those two locations. So this is a rendering of our standard station, and now I'm going to go through all the details. I've got many slides, so I'll try to get through them as quick as possible of all the different amenities and why we're doing those amenities. So the first one I want to talk about is our thickened concrete slab that's just outside the BRT station. So why are we doing that, right? So most of our roads that the BRT travels on are asphalt. And anytime you're using a heavy vehicle on asphalt and it starts to get hot, that asphalt loosens up, especially if the vehicle is heavy and it's coming to a stop, right? So you'll see that a lot of times when you're designing parking lots. You'll see thickened concrete at trash enclosures because those trash trucks are heavier. You don't want to destroy that asphalt. So we're doing that at all of our BRT stations. So we're adding this thickened concrete slab just outside the BRT stop for those heavy vehicles. So the next item here is our raised level platform. So just like our streetcar stops, we're having raised level platforms. Why are we doing that? Because when the BRT bus arrives at that platform, we want to make sure that people have that level boarding, right? So typically with the fixed route bus, our boarding is at curb height, so the bus will pull up. If you have anybody with a mobility device or a walker or anything like that, you have to lower the vehicle, and then you have to deploy a ramp, right? The whole idea of rapid is that the bus pulls up quickly, loads passengers, customers, and takes off, right? So with this raised platform, we're able to do that. The bus will pull up, open both doors, people can board or alight quickly, and then we can quickly take off rapidly, right? And be able to move on to our next stop. So the next one here is a ADA accessible ramp. So with the streetcar stops, there were certain areas where we were constrained with our right-of-way area, and we weren't able to have ADA accessible ramps at both sides. But with our BRT, there's a few where we're constrained and we're only able to do an ADA ramp on one side, but the majority of our BRT platforms will have ADA ramps on both sides, right? So quickly be able to access those, the level boarding platform with mobility devices, no steps to walk up, be able to get to the level boarding platform. And then we've got truncated domes on the leading edge of our BRT platform. Why are we doing that? So that's for those that are slightly visually impaired that can't quite see that edge, right? So you don't have a gray concrete edge and then gray concrete out on the street. You've got something that kind of pops, right? So that you can easily see the edge of that platform, but also they're truncated, right? So it's got those little bitty domes like you see at the ADA ramps. And that's to give you, like, whenever you're walking toward the edge, you can feel it with your foot, right? To let you know that you're approaching a dangerous situation, right? So you'll stop, and then you'll be able to proceed with caution. So we're doing that with our BRT platforms, running the length of the platform from ADA ramp to ADA ramp. But our BRT platforms have something that's pretty exciting for us. So most of our amenities are focused on our customers. This amenity right here is focused on our BRT operator, right? So a little exercise, put yourself in a BRT operator situation. You're sitting in your seat, you're driving along, and you want to make sure that you properly, it's called berthing, properly pull the bus up to the platform so that whenever you open both doors, people can safely board, right? Well, the easiest way to do that is to give the operator a visual cue, right? So as the BRT operator is pulling up to that stop, so that they don't stop too soon and then the back doors aren't at the level boarding area, or they pull up too far and then the front doors aren't at the level boarding area. You pull up, and as you're looking at your door, you see this yellow truncated dome section, right? So you're pulling up, you're able to align your front door with that yellow dome section, and you know that every time you pull up to the stop, your front and rear doors are at that level boarding area, right? So you can do that rapid boarding and alighting. So pretty excited about this amenity here. And then one other one here, we've got this loading area at the far edge of the BRT platform, because there's, with the COA that's going forward, there's an opportunity that there may be shared platforms with fixed route, right, for those transfers. We wanted to make sure that we also have an area for our fixed route buses to also be able to board at our BRT stations. Okay, moving along, so we have pedestrian path behind the platform. So all of our BRT stops have this pedestrian path behind the platform. The idea there is that if you have a large crowd at our BRT platform and you have pedestrians that are crossing through, they're able to just cross behind the platform and not have to, walk through a crowd, right? So quick access behind the platform and be able to continue on their path. Shelter with solar lighting, right? So super excited that all of our BRT platforms have, at a minimum, one shelter, and our high-capacity platforms have the two or the one larger shelter. But all of our shelters have the solar lighting. I've got some renderings here of what those are going to look like. So they're going to look like our standard, similar to our streetcar stops, right? So you're going to have a bench area, but you're also going to have an accessible area so that anyone in a mobility device or anything like that can still get out of the elements. And then all of them will have that interior lighting, just like our streetcar stops, to make sure they're lighting the platform or the shelter very well. Off-board ticket vending kiosks, right? So just like our streetcar stops, we have off-board ticket vending kiosks. The idea here is that you don't have anyone boarding the bus and purchasing a fare on the vehicle. you purchase your fare at the platform, you're ready to go, the bus pulls up, the doors open, everybody gets on, and the bus can quickly take off, right? You don't have that slight delay of anyone purchasing fare on the bus. We'll also have the mobile ticket opportunity for the BRT also, but there are, go to the next slide here. So our ticket vending machines will also obviously do cash, right? So we have customers that are bankless, right? They don't have a debit card or a credit card or anything like that, and they don't have a way to purchase a fare on their mobile phone. We want to make sure that we still have an opportunity to be able to purchase fare using cash and coin. So we'll have that for the BRT also. And it's just 5 quick steps, just like it is with the streetcar. You select your fare type, your rider type, your quantity, check out, and then you take your ticket and you're ready to go. You're ready to board that bus quickly, rapidly. Security improved trash collection, right? It sounds funny to talk about trash like that, but because we are a transit system, we have to always take safety and security into account. So our trash collection devices, trash cans, right, at all of our BRT stops are going to look something like this, similar to like our streetcar stops. They're going to be hinged, and they're also going to be locked, but they're perforated. And so this is pretty standard in the transit industry. Security, there's always opportunity for somebody to do something crazy, and you got to be prepared. I'm going to say it. Somebody could stick some sort of like a bomb or something like that, but you got to be prepared. And with a perforated trash can and clear trash bags, you'll be able to notice that easily without opening up the device, and we'll be able to report those as quickly as possible and get those taken care of. And then also standard for our stations, at a minimum, every single BRT station will have 1 bike rack. We're shooting for 2 everywhere that we can. We're no space constraints. We're going with a standard bike rack to be able to, again, the whole idea of mobility, right? So for that first last mile, a lot of people will use their bicycle to get to the BRT stop. If you want to lock it up, you have an opportunity to lock it up, or you can put it on the bike rack on the front of the BRT bus and be able to take your bike with you, but we wanted to make sure we had this amenity at our BRT stops. My favorite, and the one that I'm most excited about, is additional pedestrian lighting. So all of our BRT platforms will have additional lighting aside from just the shelter lighting, but we'll also have additional lighting that lights the way to the BRT platform, right? Adding that additional security and lighting. So similar to like our streetcar stops, we're doing our lighting that ties back to the district where they're at. So for our BRT stops downtown, we'll be using a P180 style light that ties to the P180 style downtown. As we move out toward Classen, we've got a couple of stops that have lighting near them that have the Midtown District stop, so that's that more of the globe look. And then we have the Asian District where we have the green light there we'll be matching. And then we have the Type D, which is just a typical LED light that you see out as you go down Classen and go down Northwest Expressway. Pretty typical light, but also additional lighting at our BRT stops. All right, we're getting close here. So leaning rail at the rear of the station. So this is similar to our streetcar stops. Lessons learned, we're going to make sure that our BRT platforms have the leaning rail that have the cables that run through them without the opening, where we don't have to have that yellow mesh for a year and a half, right? So lessons learned, we're making sure that our BRT leaning rails have those intermediate rails that run through them. And then finally, informational pylons. So just like our streetcar pylons, we're going to have an informational pylon at every single BRT stop to allow our customers to better plan for their trips. So just like the streetcars, they'll let you know when the next 3 BRT buses are going to arrive so that you can quickly plan your trip. Say you just missed the BRT bus, you know it's going to be there in 15 minutes. You look at your watch, you look at the screen, you've got 13 minutes, maybe you got time to run inside, grab some coffee, get back out, and catch the next BRT bus. All right, so informational pylons. Also opportunity for advertisements just like the streetcar stops. Quick rendering of what they look like so far. This is typical engineering drawing of what they'll look like. Excited for you guys to see once we get these things branded, it's going to look awesome. That is it. Man, that was record time. What's up, guys? Yeah. You guys got any questions about the BRT system report?
Thanks for your presentation as always. I would only add that as MAPS 4 becomes a reality and we remember the street light portion of the sidewalk, bike, trails, and street light project, that some of these type D street lights, that I just think over time we really need to think about a transition to the kind of P180 or even the Asian district or the other types, because as I keep re-emphasizing Classen as a boulevard, and I think ultimately Northwest Expressway just have this potential to really be crown jewels in terms of major corridors in our city that right now are so focused on moving cars. And I think the more aesthetically pleasing those two corridors are, the better they're going to be for pedestrians and transit users of all types. So that's something to put in our back pocket is what I would say.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Jesse?
All right. Thank you.
All right. Do I hear a motion to receive our program reports? It's been moved and seconded. I don't have that.
So push the computer button up there at the top.
Oh, okay. All right, it passes unanimously, thank you. All right, any other questions by any of the trustees? Jason, final comments?
Yes, sir. I'd like to just remind the trustees, we have a special meeting of the trust. It's a workshop scheduled for September the 9th. I believe that's at 9 a.m. And that is a workshop related to presenting the current status of the comprehensive operational analysis, or the study that Nelson Nygaard is helping us with. And as you'll recall, we had a virtual workshop where trustees were able to kind of see the approach of the consultants, provide some input and some ideas. Now this workshop will be them coming back to the trust in what we call scenario planning, right? And so there'll be some different system scenarios, if you will, that we'll look at. And again, we'll be looking to the trust for guidance on, kind of the policy and the direction that you want to move towards in transforming our bus system in the future. So I will note that I believe you have a calendar invite that identifies the Arts District Garage as the meeting location. We are looking at an alternate location, one much larger than that conference room, so that we can have ample social distancing. So stay tuned for an updated location.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize, I missed the call for items from trustees. So if it's okay to mention, I just wanted to give my testimony about an Embark service that I was able to use this week. As much as it pains me to admit my senior citizen status publicly, I was able to take advantage of Embark's senior mobility program. And I'm sorry that Marilyn's not here today, but I wanted to say that this was an opportunity for me to go to a doctor's appointment that I would not have been able to drive myself home from because I had my eyes dilated. Marilyn told me to call an Embark staff member named Becky, who she said was a rock star, and I can testify to that. She was a rock star. They set me up with an appointment about a week ahead of my doctor's appointment. I used a service that is contracted with Embark called Go Go Geezer. I think that's the cutest name ever. They called me ahead of time to verify that they were coming. They called me ahead of time. They called me when they arrived at my house. I was very happy to be transported by a young man who actually lives in my neighborhood. So he was pretty excited about that too. Got taken to my appointment well in advance of the time I needed to be there. Picked up about 3 hours later, in order to be taken home. Felt very safe with that trip and very well served by that service. I wanted to talk about it a little bit because I feel like this is such an excellent service for our senior residents, and I want to make more people aware of it. I even asked Becky to send me some of the brochures so that I could be sure to leave some at my doctor's office so that other people who might be coming there would also be aware of the service. So I just wanted to compliment it and say that it all worked very smoothly. That's all I have.
Well, Laura, let it be known, we're not going to call you a geezer, so
Go for it.
go for it. All right, any other comments by any of the trustees? Then I'd say our meeting's adjourned. Thank you.